Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and today we're going to use a ball as a prop. If you don't have a ball at home, no problem. You can take a pillow and fold it a couple times, or you can just do without the prop. Yeah, as always, don't do anything that doesn't feel right in your body or that's contraindicated. And we're going to get started on our back, knees bent, feet flat. And we breathe. So yeah, you can put the ball in between your knees unless it doesn't work for you today. So we're gonna check in with our body. And if, for instance, you're holding excessive tension in your hips, even with the ball, you can try widening your feet and letting your knees come together, or you can try bringing your feet together and letting your knees go out to the side, and just see what feels the most comfortable for your body to start. So bring one hand to your sternum and one hand to your low abs. And just inhale in through your nose for about 4 counts. And then exhale for 6 counts. So what we're trying to do here is see which of our hands move, right? So if it's our top hand, that could indicate that your diaphragm is lifting, or you're using your secondary respiration muscles to try to get breath. So I'd like your lower hand to do most of the moving. Still trying to keep your back in the same position so we're not lifting up as we inhale. We're just allowing expansiveness. One more. And then we're going to wrap our hands around our ribs. So I like to do thumbs forward and fingers down. So I'm kind of holding the back of my rib cage. And as you inhale, inhale into your fingers and then expand laterally, so wide into your palms. And then exhale. So as your diaphragm lowers, your ribs should expand. Your transversus abdominis should expand. Your pelvic floor should eccentrically lower. And then on your exhale, your diaphragm lifts back, ribs come together, transverse abdominis gently engages, pelvic floor gently lifts. 2 more. Last one, breathing low into your back, expanding through the tissue of your low back. And then come back to center. So bring your hands either to your hip bones or the floor next to you, or they can rest just low on your abs. On your next exhale, without changing the shape of your spine, we're just going to gently think of our ribs pointing towards our belly button. We're going to sink the fronts of our abs down so much that we're going to put weight in our sacrum. And then relax. Inhale. Exhale, sink the ribs down. Put just a little bit of weight in your sacrum. Do you feel how your deep abdominals kick on as soon as you use the rib cage and that little bit of weight? We're going to do 2 more. Just finding that nice abdominal connection. And just start to notice if both sides engage the same. Now, all we're going to do on our next exhale, sink your belly button down, let your low back lengthen towards the floor. We are lengthening through the fronts of our thighs. We're not gripping. Keep your buns soft. Doesn't have to be a big move. And then rock back to your neutral. Couple more. Exhale, come into a gentle imprint. Inhale, rock back to neutral without letting the ribs pop, which is the tricky part, right? 2 more. Last one. Now we hold this last imprint. So hold the imprint. See if you can deepen the imprint. And a little bit more, and a little bit more. Pressing your toes into the ground, peeling your spine up into your first bridge. Now check out your bridge, right? Making sure that instead of the weight being on your neck or lifting from your armpits, that your weight is on your shoulder blades. Finding your glutes here, gorgeous. And then melt through your throat, your sternum, your low ribs, your back, and relax into that neutral. Let's do a couple more. Initiating from your abs and then pressing into your feet. The underbutt should be helping you here. Making sure that your low back is nice and soft. And by that, I just mean it's not overworking, right? So if, when you come up, either your ribs pop or your hips drop, or you just feel your low back a lot, come down a little. Think about the glutes leading the charge, so the pubic bone is higher than your hip bones, and then melt through your spine. Last one. And roll all the way down. Finding that neutral, we're going to circle our hands behind us. Spiral your elbows forward. Now we're going to be kind of specific here for a second. Shoulder blades draw down your back. Exhale, come into your chest lift by sinking your belly button down and curling your collarbones forward. Now bring your hands forward. Push them into an imaginary surface to maybe get a tiny bit more engagement. Hands back behind your head. Now, as we breathe, we're going to hold for a second. Notice how if you send your breath up, your head naturally lowers, and it's harder to maintain that lift. Whereas if you send your breath low, it creates buoyancy. Now, keep your ribs drawing towards your belly button, ribs towards your belly button, and just lower your head only. Do you feel how that keeps that ab connection? Good. And then exhale, come back up. Good. Elbows can be in your periphery. Bring your hands forward, push them into that surface, come back, hold. And then keep the ribs drawing in and down as we slowly lower our head. Last one like this. Hands forward, push, back behind our head and hold. Keep the ribs drawing down, 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 just lower your head. So you're really maintaining that integration. Bring one hand by your side. Now we're actually going to try to keep that hand relatively still here as we come up and rotate to look at the hand. Good, and then back. Just a few like this. Exhale, pull the belly button in to initiate. Good. Nancy, how did these feel already? Good. 2 more. Last one. And we get to do the other side. So just switch hands, keep that hand relatively still as we lift up and look. And then also notice what your hips are doing, right? So if a hip is trying to lift or it wants to sink, see if you can just keep them a little bit more evenly weighted. We have 3, 2. Last one. Slide that hand behind you. Spiral both of those elbows into your periphery. Now we're going to go up and over to one side, hold. Now see if you can lift through center as you go to the other side, and then come back down. Now we go to the opposite side. So if you started to the left, you go to the right, vice versa. Hold, and then come up and over, looking at your calf if you can, or at very least your knees, up and over, and then back down. So we're trying to find that kind of lift from our abs, but we're taking a little break in between. But I also want you to see if your spine is side bending, right? So if you're doing a side bend, you kind of have to shift all the way back to center. So instead, we're trying to just find rotation and taking that quote unquote rest moment to see where your spine is going. Good. If at any point you need a break, take a break. Last one each side. And all the way down. Go ahead, slide your hands down by your sides, slide your knees in, and we're just gently going to rock our hips from side to side, getting a little bit of movement through our spine. And then you can either keep your knees like this while you take your arms out to the side, or you can squeeze your heels and inner thighs together as you bring your legs to tabletop. Now, you can do this without the ball if it is more comfortable, or you can keep the ball. Keep your shoulders melting, rib cage heavy, lift one hip, other side lowers. So we're doing supine spine twist. And remember, it's not about going really far, right? We're trying to find that stability. So that hip lengthens away from your face. We drag the ribs back. If you go so far that your back arches, you have gone too far and you are starting to use your QL and erectors rather than obliques. So pause before you think you need to and just hold. And then use your abs to drag yourself back. And then pause before you think you need to, and then bring it back. If for any reason you're like, man, my back just really needs a little bit more rotational stretch, bring your feet down and get your stretch that way. And then once you've achieved that, then you can come back. Ribs down, belly button draws through. Last one. And back. Nice job, you guys. You can go ahead, bring your feet back down, lift your heels so your toes are barely grazing the ground. Now you can always keep your head down for this, or you can lift. I'll show both. Inhale, exhale, flex to your ankles, and then tap. Squeeze the ball if you need to, and just flex at the ankle joint. So we're trying to find stability from our deep abdominals here. And notice how your knees are kind of far away from your body, right? So if your knees pull up, as opposed to just moving at the ankle joint, it's your body's way of trying to minimize the force that is needed to stabilize your spine. Now, if that feels good, and you're like, you know, my transverse abdominis is really strong, this feels great, I would like more rectus abdominis work, fantastic, come into a chest lift. Yeah. Couple more, either way is great. Then two. Andrea, curl a little higher though. Yeah. Is that more exciting? Yeah. Last one, bring your feet down, take the prop out from behind you. Bring one leg toward your chest and extend the other leg out. This should feel pretty good, pretty easy. Now, the leg that is extended, go ahead and straighten it. Now, with it straight, press your heel down into the ground and then push the foot away from you. I don't necessarily want it to lift, but envision it starting to hover. Now the leg that your hands are on, as you come into your chest lift, you're gonna push your shin into your hands and then push down into the shin from your lats. Good, beautiful, you guys, and then come back down. We're gonna find that a couple more times. Push, lift, try to push that foot so far away that it helps leverage you up. Last one. And then inhale, exhale, switch your legs. We get to do the other side. So hug your knee into your chest, let that leg stretch. And then straighten your knee, push your heel down, and then push the foot so far away that maybe it starts to lighten just a little bit. But once again, it's not about lifting it, it's about lengthening and stabilizing. Then you push the shin into the hands, lift, yeah. And then come down, couple more. Good. One more. Inhale, hold. Exhale, switch. Inhale, hold. Exhale, switch. Good. So you're pressing down and up for single leg stretch. Now, if you need to, of course, you can keep the leg on the ground. If you need to, you can also put your head down, right? And if you'd like, you can tap the leg instead of fully extending. No problem. We have 3, 2, last set. Now, the only thing we're going to change, hands behind our head. And then if it's appropriate, add rotation. Slow and steady. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 1. Good. Now, if you need to, head down, great, no problem. But with the head down, it just feels kind of like we're moving our legs through space. So instead of just moving the legs through space, opposite hand comes to outer thigh. You're going to push the thigh into the hand, as well as find that connection with the hand, right? So when we were pressing down, it's the same concept. We're using our arm to help our abs fire more. Good. We have just a couple more. 4, 3, 2 more. Last one. Hug your knees in. Go ahead, circle your thighs in the socket. And then we can go the other direction. Right. Go ahead, bring both feet down for a second. Gently press into your thighs. If it feels good to have a tiny bit of traction through your spine. And then slowly extend your legs. Now with your legs extended, notice what your body's doing, right? If you're in an arched position with your ribs lifted, definitely come into neutral, sink the ribs down. Now see if you can imprint your spine. And then come back to neutral. It is much harder to imprint the spine here, isn't it? Yeah. Now, if you can't imprint with your legs extended, bend your knees a tiny bit, just a little bit, and see if that gives you a little bit more movement. And that should kind of let you know what you might need to do to make your roll-ups the most successful that they can be. So go ahead, bring your arms to the sky. Keep those ribs gently drawing in. Arms will come overhead, still keep the ribs drawing in. Inhale into your chest lift. And then exhale, curl and roll. Good. Now remember, first one never counts, right? Reach your hands forward, and you can either bring them to your feet or your ankles, or your shins. You're gonna draw your armpits down and then lift your ribs away from the floor. Good. And then curl. Letting your feet be heavy, 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 heavy. And then let your pelvis unwind, ribs stay gently drawing down. And then curl and roll. Good. Couple more here. Yeah. Now, if for any reason roll-ups just are challenging, because they are, you can always slide a pad underneath your low back to give you a little bit of support. You can always use small hand weights, or you can use your legs to help you, right? So think about, as you come up, sending your legs away from you to create just a little bit of leverage. Good. 2 more. Good. Yeah, breath. Breathe, it'll make it easier, I promise. Last one. And we come up. Go ahead and grab the prop and put it behind us. Now, before we use it, we're gonna sit up nice and tall, but let's practice something for funsies. So come back onto your tailbone a little bit, unless it really hurts to be on your tailbone, in which case go behind it. And I want you to try to sit up tall from here. It's hard, right? So now relax everything, roll forward. So you're actually going to be on your sits bones instead, and then try to sit up. Yeah, your hip flexors are in a more flexed position, so it might not be the most comfortable there, but it's easier on the spine, right? Good. And just curl, let your spine round. And then think about your sits bones rolling forward to help you stack. Good, 2 more. So why is that important? Well, if you sit all day, say you have a desk job and you're kind of here all day behind your tailbone, it's harder to sit up straight. Whereas if you allow yourself to roll onto your sits bones, it's going to be easier for your body to stack. All right, we're going to roll it back until we find our prop, hands interlaced behind our head. Yeah, so have it about at rib cage height. If it's low back, you might want to bring it up. You can always adjust as we go. So lengthen through your ears. Keep your ribs drawing down as much as you can. And we're just going to start by getting a little bit of upper back extension. And then once you're fully extended, relax your abs for me. And then exhale, pull your belly button through your spine, curl your collarbones forward. Yeah. And then slowly extend. And again. Beautiful, everybody. If you begin that exhale by sinking your low abs down and then letting your ribs sink into the ball, you should feel a lot of deep abdominal. Yeah? Okay, great. That's the goal, because it's kind of easy for like a rectus abdominis to take over, but we want to find everything. The transverse abdominis, its job isn't so much to move us as it is to stabilize our spine, right? So if we don't engage it, like at different points, it's not instinctively going to kick on the same way that our rectus or obliques would, right? Now, if you want, you can stick with this, or we can add a little bit of oblique by just extending one leg. And as we curl up, we slide that leg in, bring the knee towards us. Yeah, we don't even have to rotate. And then slowly extend it. And then exhale, sink the ribs down. We slide that leg in. Good. Now, if you'd like more excitement, we're going to use the same side, arm as leg. And you're going to push in. Good. Everyone feel that excitement? Yes, ma'am. Good. How are these feeling, everybody? Good. Pressing with the heel of your hand and your armpit as opposed to the neck. So if you feel neck instead of abs, try pressing from a different part and kind of imagining that you have little water wings that you just want to give a gentle hug to. We have 2 more on this side. Good. Last one. And then other side. So we extend the leg out. And we exhale, curl, bring it forward. We don't even have to press if we don't want to. And then extend. And then if you do want the extra excitement, we get to add that hand. So we just push. Good. Couple more. Curling your ribs forward, like there's a beach ball that a very tiny beach ball you're trying to like curl around on the way up. 2 more. Last one. Now both feet down, just extend over the prop and breathe. Now we're coming part of the way up. So instead of curling up, we're finding neutral this time, all right? So still think about the ribs sinking down towards your belly button, but then the ears lengthen away from you. Good. And you can look just kind of at the corner of the room, right? So we're not looking just at the sky, we're not looking at our knees. And then on your exhale, think about pulling your belly button down so far that you start to lighten your load on the ball. Just take like half a pound of weight off the ball and then relax. Good, trying not to curl forward, but up. It's tricky. So we're trying to maintain that neutral spine and just increase the amount of work our abs are having to do. Yep, yeah. Do you guys start trembling immediately? Yeah, same. Two more. Last one. And then slowly extend and breathe. And then you can come up however you need to come off of the ball. And then we are going to roll back down because we're going to get a little bit more movement through our spine. So roll down, open your arms. Now to begin, you of course can take one foot and bring it to the floor. And we're just taking the same side arm as foot, and we are bringing it across our body. And then we're bringing it back out. Now try, instead of moving your spine in one piece, to kind of like snake it around. So you're articulating, yeah, and back. Couple more. So think about the upper part moving first. Like say I'm pulling your hand and the rest of you just comes along for the ride. Yeah. If you have your foot on the ground, it's a little bit trickier to articulate only because your body wants to push into the foot immediately, but really you should just push into the foot when you get stuck. Yeah. One more. And I know it's harder than it seems like it should be, right? Yeah, and let's do that other side. That's also why it's good practice, right? Good. Once again, if you need to, you've got that foot. If using the foot is too easy, see if you can do this with both legs straight. It's much trickier, but just imagine I'm pulling your hand and you're letting me. 2 more. Last one. And then come back to center. Your arms can be either out to the side or they can be down by your sides. It's up to you. We're going to now just move our feet and our spine will come along for the ride. So slide your feet to one side, bending your knees, letting your spine round, and then slide it out other side. Once again, this is a little trickier than it seems like it should be, but it should also feel good on your back. If it doesn't, keep your knees bent the whole time. And if the rounding is what doesn't feel good, you don't really have to go into a crazy range. If it feels great and you'd like more challenge, keep your legs straight. It's way harder. Good. One more each side. And now come to one side with your knees and then allow yourself to roll onto your side. Now, if you need a support for your head, you can either use your hand or the pillow. We are going to be rolling or rotating our rib cage, so just make sure you don't fall off your pillow. Reach your top arm forward, sliding your pinky finger forward. Now slide your shoulder back, open your arm like a book, trying to maintain neutral if possible. So if you start to have to arch to get more range, you've just found your end range. And back. So when you get to the point where your back has to arch to get you there, that's just telling your erectors like, hey, you should really work. And it's not bad to have them work, they need to, but sometimes they like to overwork. So letting them relax is a better option. One more. Should feel good on your spine. And come back. Now, you can still use that prop. We're going to extend our top leg out, lifting our ribs. Yeah. And then push your foot so far away that it starts to lift. And then squeegee it down. So we are paintbrushing up the wall. Julia, rotate your top hip bone forward, heel back in space a little. Yep. So it's more booty. Yeah. How's that feel? Good. Now this goes for anybody. If you start really feeling the front pocket of your hip when you do this, check out what your foot is doing or your range or what your hip is doing, right? So if your foot is coming forward, that is getting that TFL to do the job rather than your glute medius. If you're like, okay, I'm not doing that, but either the TFL really wants to or the glute doesn't want to, sometimes the hip will open to try to help get that. In which case, keep the hip bones pointing forward, foot slightly behind you. Good. We have 2 more. Last one. Now go ahead, bend the knee to match the bottom one. And we're actually going to slide that top knee back. So think about suction cupping the thigh bone so deep in the socket that it slides back behind that bottom knee. So any other direction. Yeah, there you go. And now tuck your tailbone a little bit And we are just going to push, push, push that top knee down into the bottom leg. Everybody feel that inner thigh? Like immediately? Great. And then relax. Reset. Drive it down, 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 down. And relax. Couple more. Now drive that, Nancy, top knee back. Slide it back. Yep. And then tuck your tailbone. Slide it back even more. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Now notice how if you push down hard enough, your foot wants to float. Think about pressing down and allowing your thigh bone to rotate slightly from the inner thigh. We're trying to kind of bypass that TFL a little bit because it likes to do a whole lot of work. So if you go into a big range and your hip pulls forward or you just feel your TFL, think more about driving down and maybe the foot lifts rather than lifting the foot. Does that make sense? Good. Push down, 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 down into the knee. Yeah, good. Just trying to light up that inner thigh, get it to do its job. Good. Last one. Now bring your heels together. Now, you can keep your knees at this angle or you can bring them in a different angle. It's up to you. But now your top knee slides forward, unwind your hips, squeeze your heels together for clamshell. Slowly lower down. Now with clamshell, I don't actually want your goal to be getting your knee to the sky, right? Because most of us don't have that pure range of motion. And if we're trying to get there, we're probably going to be doing something weird with our back or our hips. And I want us to just think about hip bones facing forward. So Heather, point your top hip bone more towards Julia, Julia more towards Heather. Yeah. And just spiral that thigh bone in the socket. That's it. It's like screwing in a light bulb. And then back down. Two more. Good. Last one. Bring it down. Nice. Extend that top leg again, pushing it away. Now, just imagine your heels against a wall. You want to push into the wall. Yep. Behind you, not, yeah. So instead of away, just behind. Yeah, there you go. So we're getting glute max active. Everybody feel that glute kicking on a little? Yeah. Two more. Last one. Hold. Now, just hinging at the hip. Flex the foot, let it slide forward. Point the toe, drag it back. Now, when we do this, we're trying not to let our back round. We're trying not to let our back arch, okay? We're attempting to maintain neutral. And most of us don't have the hamstring flexibility to get the leg really high without the back helping. So don't worry if you can't get it really forward. We're just finding your end range of motion, not mine, not the person next to you, just yours. Two. Last one. Hold it back behind, tiny circles. 5, 4, good. And reverse. Thinking about that glute, helping drag it back, opening through the front of the hip. 2. Last one, bend the knees. Good. Now we're going to go to the opposite side. So roll on to your back, arms out, slide your knees, and then you can come onto your side. And I'm going to turn around. So we're going to begin with those rotations, yeah? So once again, you can use your arm or the prop. You're gonna reach forward, open the chest. Now, if you get to a point where you just kind of feel stuck, hold for a second, inhale, and then exhale, relax. And then bring yourself forward. Now, as you do this, if you notice that you are arching, ask yourself if you're letting your hip come along. Your hip should be following, right? Hey, Nancy, look at your hand. Yeah. Yeah. And then let your hip move a little. Top hip. Yeah. There you go. That looked better. Does that feel a little easier in your back? Yeah. Hips do not have to stay stacked here unless you just happen to have the mobility to be able to do that. 2. Last 1. You guys ready for that excitement? Yes? Good. So breathe for a second. And then roll back. And you can always use the prop or your arm, extend that top leg. Now, try to lift that bottom rib like I'm sliding a sheet of paper under you. So we've got this nice straight spine. We push that hip away and make sure that the foot is at least in line, if not slightly behind you. Paintbrush it up the wall without the ribs collapsing, and then squeegee it down. Nancy, foot behind you slightly. Yep. Good. Thank you, Annie. I was just about to suggest the same thing. Good. Now, can anybody tell me why I don't want you to come up so high that your ribs collapse? I'll tell you. So first, we're trying to just find range of motion through the hip joint. And if the ribs start trying to do the job for us, we're no longer finding range of motion through the hip joint. The other thing is we're trying to find glute medius here because it's a really important muscle. And our body is really good at trying to use other muscles to assist, right? Like our TFL or our QL, right? So if we're lifting that hip, when we try to lift that leg, we're actually using our back to get the range. Last one. Good. Bend the knee and slide that top knee back, suction cupping it into the socket. Now curl your tailbone, sink your ribs. We're tucking a little bit, imprinting. And then all we do is drive that knee down. That's it. Foot doesn't have to move. We're just pushing the knee down. And then relax. Make sure we haven't slid forward. We're still tucking, driving down, 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 down. And relax. How's that feeling, everybody? Good. Now, as you drive that knee down, you might feel that foot trying to hover, in which case, that's fine. Think about that thigh bone spiraling in because of the inner thigh. Once again, it's not necessarily the goal to lift the foot. We can lift the foot from wherever we want, but we're trying to get inner thigh and then rotation. Good. Good. Couple more. How's that inner thigh feeling, everybody? Is it more exciting than it should be? Yeah. 2 more. If you're like me and you have a really active TFL, you can actually use your hand here to guide your leg. I'm actually helping my femur internally rotate, but I'm still really just focusing on my inner thigh. Yeah. Good job, you guys. Now we're going the opposite way. Knee comes forward, and you can keep your legs at this position or bring them back a little. Hip bone reaches forward, tail feathers spread wide, heels squeeze, just spiral the thigh bone in the socket like you're screwing in a light bulb. And again. Side note, I have trouble thinking of the word light bulb for some reason. So I'm always like, what else would do that? And I'm like, an IKEA coffee table, like every single time. Good. So like you're putting together an IKEA coffee table. Relaxing your shoulders, making sure your hip bones are still pointing forward. Yeah, good. Yep. And maybe on one side you have more range than the other. That's okay. It's all information. 2. Last one, we're going to extend that leg out again. And then imagine that we're just against a wall and push your heel backwards into the wall. And then relax, push it backwards. So we're trying to drag the foot back by activating our glute, but it's less about getting the foot to move, more about just imagining pushing into something. So our nervous system is kind of cool because let's try something. Let your leg dangle and then just don't imagine pushing it into something, just imagine kind of moving it backwards. It kind of just swings freely, right? Now, imagine it attaching to something and you're gonna push into it. Do you feel how all of a sudden your muscles recruit as if you were in a closed chain? Yeah, I just think it's neat. 2 more. Last one, and we circle. Tiny little baby circles. 5, 4, 3, 2, and reverse. You guys are doing amazing. And then relax. We're coming on to all fours. Hi, everybody. Now, if you need to be on your fists or your forearms, that's fine. You can also help offload your wrists by being on the edge of the mat. My wrists don't love the squishiness of the mat, so I like to be on the floor. Anywhere you need to be is fine. We're gonna think about our shoulders being directly above our wrists, pushing in with your pointer finger mound. Now, just for funsies, we're going to maintain our neutral spine. And maintaining that neutral spine, I want your shoulder blades to come together. So we're not extending and we're not letting our head drop. And then maintaining that neutral spine, we're going to push the floor away, protract our scapula. Try not to round here. And then they come together, try not to arch here. Let them come apart, try not to round here. One more. We're trying to separate out shoulder blade movement from spinal movement. Now this one, hold, maintain that little protraction. And now you can let just your upper back round. See how much easier it is to find? Now keep that protraction. We're gonna let our upper back extend. Keep the shoulders protracted, let the upper back round. Still separating out shoulder blade from spine movement, but now we're moving our spine as opposed to our shoulders. Let your upper back extend. Let your upper back round. Come back to neutral. And now we retract our shoulder blades. So if they lift, see if you can just bring them together and not up. And now holding the retraction, get a little upper back extension. So simple, right? So easy. Now the hard part, keep them together, round your upper back. Now let your upper back extend. And they might come apart a little bit when you round your upper back, but still try to keep them somewhat together. Last one. Now come back to center, everything in neutral. Good, slide one foot out, push it down into the ground, find that glute. Hold, other side. Push down into the ground. Now, maybe this is where you are today, in which case, fantastic. Maybe you're coming into your plank and you are coming into front support. Maybe you're in between and you just need to bring your knee down for a second in between, right? Any of these are great. Couple more. Last two. Last one. Knees down. Push yourself into your rest position. Really push into the heels of your hands because we're trying to get our shoulder blades to move. Now come back. I feel like most of us tried to relax into it. Come back onto all fours. So come back onto all fours. Now for this first one, let your elbows bend, just relax into it, try to round your back. Yeah, so you just relaxed your back, but you also didn't do anything with the shoulders. Shoulder blades now come back to center. Okay, now push the heels of your hands into the floor. Use that to push yourself back. We're trying to let our shoulder blades come around our ribs. Yeah, and then come back. Do you feel the difference? It's actually work. Yeah, okay, 2 more. Good, last one. Push, 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 push. We're trying to upwardly rotate our scapula. Good. And then you can take your hands up and over to one side. Push your hips to the other side. And then other direction. Now go ahead. Maintain this kind of relaxed position. We're going to bring our elbows in, bring our hands to our spine. And you can always come forward a little bit if it's more comfortable. So now we're going to feel our spine extend as we push our hips back, open our armpits, and see if you can feel that little bit of extension through your thoracic. And then come out of it. Try it again. Good. Good. Nice, Nancy. Yeah. And come out of it. Try again. It's easy to find extension from our lumbar most of the time because that's what already likes to extend, right? Now you can slide your elbows in. We can either have our hand on our shoulder or out to the side. It's up to you. I'll show both. We're going to slide that elbow out and then use our rib cage to rotate and back. Now, if you're like, cool, I don't have any shoulder stuff and I really want more activation, go for it. So the palm will face down. And then as you slide the fingertips up, you're gonna flip your palm to face forward. So we're gonna work different shoulder muscles if you flip your palm in that external rotation. Good. Good. Hey, Heather, that looks great. Start to open and then flip your palm to face me. Like, yeah, there you go. Externally rotated. It's harder, isn't it? Yeah. Good. And then other side. Whether a hand is here or here is up to you. Start by rotating. If you're not sure, start with it in a shortened lever. If being in a very compressed position doesn't feel good, you can always come onto like a wider quadruped. Good, but we're trying to find a relatively neutral and then external rotation. Good. We're not necessarily going into big retraction. Think about that shoulder blade setting on your ribs. And instead of moving your arm to get you there, you're moving your ribs and your arm is coming along for the ride. 2. Last 1. Good. Now go ahead, bring your hands to the ground. We are coming into a downward dog unless that doesn't feel good. Okay. Tuck your toes under and press your hips up, pushing yourself into that position where your calves stretch and your upper back extends. And you can start pedaling through your feet. And you can walk your hands toward your feet or your feet toward your hands and dangle. Now, shifting your weight forward and back just a little bit, you might start to notice that when your weight is back, you're like, ooh, hamstring. And when your weight is forward, it's like, oh, calf and hamstring, right? 1 more. And then scoop and roll yourself all the way up. We're gonna do a little bit of balance. All right, now, feet together is great. Feet slightly staggered is awesome. Feet totally staggered is awesome. We're going to challenge our visual system and then our vestibular system. It's gonna be fun for me. So Go ahead, bring your finger in front of your face. Keep your chin still. Don't move your face, but you're going to bring your finger across. You're going to keep looking at it. Hard for me today. Now, visual system, this might be a little challenging, but typically vestibular system can be a little bit more challenging than visual, so we'll see how it goes. We're gonna switch feet. Were you looking at your finger the whole time? Good. Yeah. Now this time, finger doesn't move. Still look at it the whole time. Finger does not move, but head does. Try to really make sure that your eyes aren't flickering away from it. So keep looking at the finger the whole time, whole time, whole time. Yeah, there, good. Oh, keep looking at it. It's hard to do, isn't it? Which is why we're practicing, right? Last one, feet together. We're gonna flip our palms up, open your collarbones. Big breath. And then restack. Nice job, you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining me today. Awesome job.